There's a lot of talk about reducing the government size, shrinking it, cutting federal jobs. But there are federal agencies that are desperate to hire more workers. From air traffic controllers, cybersecurity professionals, healthcare professionals, they cannot hire enough. How will this impact you? Let's get into it. We have 45,000 flights across the US skies every single day, carrying 3 million passengers. Who's keeping those planes from crashing? It's not just the pilots. It's an agency called the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, and more specifically, we're looking at the air traffic controller. We have about 10,000 of these people, but we're short. We're short about 3 to 4,000. We need to hire more. And we haven't just been short overnight. It hasn't been from one day to the next or 1 year from the next. We've been short for over a decade. But the real serious problem is we're flying more as a country. The flights have increased year over year 4%. More people are getting onto planes, whether they're going to Orlando to visit Disney World or they're going to the West Coast, to California, for whatever reason you would want to go there. A report this year shows that a third of FAA facilities are 10% below staffing targets. Many of them are 15% below. So this is a problem. This is a problem that's growing into even a bigger problem. Why did this happen? Why can't we just turn on a button and hire more people into this position? Well, the reason that it happened has to do with government shutdowns, hiring freezes, and training requirements. So what happens when you're short-staffed? You don't have enough people. Well, you have to use overtime. You have to lean into it, and the FAA is leaning hard. Last year, FAA logged over 2 million hours of overtime, costing us a whopping $200 million. That's an over 300% per air traffic controller from 10 years ago. You had one controller actually say they could make $500,000 a year with overtime. $500,000 a year? That is an attractive salary. It's more than most of these jobs pay out here, and it puts you in the 1%. You're in the 1% of earners. I think you have to earn over $400,000 a year. If you're able to earn over $400K a year, you're in the 1% of earners. So with a high salary like that, why is it so hard to get people to come on over and start working as an air traffic controller? Well, for one thing, many controllers are forced into a 6-day work week and they have mandatory overtime. And with all the overtime, the scary part really is burnout and safety. Last year, an FAA panel raised serious concerns about controller fatigue. Tired controllers mean slower reactions. So there's new rules coming out to address this. One of the rules is you need 10 hours off. From the end of your shift, you need at least 10 hours. So it has to deal with scheduling. You have to be able to get the scheduling right. So you would assume in this agency, when they're dealing with such a specific problem that could have huge consequences, you would have your scheduling software up to snuff. You would have it locked in. Nope. A recent report says the FAA bought a fancy shift scheduling software package in 2012 and still hasn't fully implemented it. Inefficient scheduling is one of the big reasons why the overtime costs are through the roof. And you have more air traffic controllers there, but the report is saying they're spending less time managing the skies. So they're doing other stuff instead, and the Trump administration is trying to fix this. They want to spend $20 billion to modernize air traffic control to include new equipment. But money alone will not solve this problem. You need people. You need employees, the right ones, in the right positions. And we're in a hiring freeze right now, but FAA is hiring in full force. If you go on there, there are over 80 open jobs on usajobs.gov. All of these right here, they need to be filled. This one here is public notice announcement. That means it's open. Open 13 months. It's a direct hire position, meaning you should be hired quicker. This one's to work in Alaska, which could be harder to hire for, but the salary range goes up to $128,000 a year. Of course, you got to take the skill assessment and you got to pass academy training. These jobs are able to hire because it falls under public safety. And the bottom line is if we do not have enough air traffic controllers, if we do not solve this problem, then more people are at risk when they fly. But this is not the only position because we also have nurses that are high in demand. RNs, registered nurses, not just them, but RNs in particular. There's also LPN, there's different type of nurses, doctors as well. They're all in demand. But let's look at RNs. Who's hiring? Well, the Department of Veteran Affairs. They hire the most RNs. Number 2 would be Health and Human Services. But the VA hires close to 10 times more nurses than HHS, and they're short right now. An OIG report said that 92% of facilities reported severe shortages for nurses. So what is the government doing to attract nurses and try to start filling some of these gaps that we have within the workforce? Well, they're doing a few things. One of the things is called a recruitment incentive. And you can find this information on the job announcement. Look at this one. It's for an advanced practice nurse in North Carolina. It pays up to $185,000 a year, and it specifically states there is a recruitment and a relocation incentive for highly qualified people. The relocation incentive means that you pay all the costs to relocate. Let's say you're in Arizona and the position's in North Carolina. So you pay to move your household goods. You pay for the plane ticket, the taxi, or the Uber to the airport. And then on the back end, the government reimburses you. Now, it could take 2 or 3 months. So you have to kind of plan for that. But for some people, it's the right incentive. The next thing you have is hiring authorities. So you have direct hiring. So all the other preferences that people use, like veterans preference, Schedule A, it kind of falls at the wayside. When you're talking about direct hiring, that means not only can you get hired quicker, but you're not going to get bumped out of the way by a veteran or by somebody else who has a preference. Then you have different pay bands. So if you look at the VA, they have a pay band called VN, and that allows you to have the potential to get paid more than somebody that's on the GS pay band. Most federal employees are on the GS pay band. Now, if we do not get enough nurses, who's going to be impacted the most? It will be veterans. Because largely speaking, when we're talking about nurses, we're talking about the VA, we're talking about providing health care to the veterans that have served our country. Now, this population shrinks every year. We're getting a smaller and smaller veteran population. And you have the Secretary of the VA right now that's more than willing to push those veterans out to non-VA facilities. But first and foremost, the most trained, I would say, when it comes to interacting, dealing, to understanding on what a veteran is going through would probably be the VA. So we need to fill those gaps. It's not just nurses, though. Next position, let's look at another one. Cybersecurity jobs, they're in demand, but you want to watch what agency you're going into, because there was a story recently with DHS, the Department of Homeland Security. There is a sub-agency underneath there where cybersecurity personnel, they were getting fired. They were getting laid off. And this comes to the agency that was responsible for providing election security. So they had a large part in debunking a lot of the rumors, the myths that circulated around the 2020 election. And because they did not favor that Donald Trump was the winner of the 2020 election, as retaliation, a lot of people's estimation is it's because of retaliation that they were laid off. A lot of them were laid off. But if you go into an agency like DOD, the Department of Defense, you probably have a lot more stability in your job. Right now, there's over 50 open cybersecurity jobs on usajobs.gov. Last year, a lot of sources were indicating we had a 24% vacancy rate when it comes to having cybersecurity personnel in the Department of Defense. And my question to you is, do you think it's gotten any better in the year 2025? Do you think 24% has increased or has decreased? It probably has increased. There's probably more of a vacancy now than there was last year. And it's hard to find people for this position. It's not just politics either. There's a few reasons why it's hard, to include the pay. It can't compete with the private sector. There's the slow and rigid hiring process, and then you have the security clearance hurdles. Most Department of Defense jobs are going to have a security clearance requirement. It doesn't really matter what sub-agency you're working in DoD, just the nature of their job, you're going to have that requirement. A lot of people, they don't want to fill out over 100 pages and have their background extensively checked. But that's the same thing that you have to go through if you want to be a defense contractor. You still have to go through the same process. But if you're not working for DOD, DHS, or DOJ, Department of Justice, if you're not working for one of those three, you probably will not have a clearance requirement. Most jobs in the government, there is no security clearance requirement. But if you're looking at cybersecurity, The biggest demand is Department of Defense, so there will be a requirement. Another thing that's worth pointing out with these jobs is there is no educational requirement. There is no college degree requirement. The government, in most cases, they're moving away from college education. They're looking more towards skills. Can you prove you have the skills? Do you have the experience? You do not necessarily have to go to school for 4 or 6 years to get a master's in cybersecurity. That's not going to put you over the top. If somebody has the experience, they could easily get hired over you. So what type of skills would you need to have for a job like this? What type of skills should you be practicing? Well, it could be things like intrusion detection, firewalls and VPNs, endpoint detection and response, malware analysis, and threat modeling. The big question is, how do you get this experience? Well, there are countless of online resources that you can use in order to build up proficiency. And once you're at a certain level, you volunteer. So people have broken into cybersecurity in the past by going to their city, going to a nonprofit, going to their university, and volunteering their time. At first, it could be something simple. Let me build a database for you. You got a database there for whatever your function is in that organization. Let me help build it for free. And then if you have a couple of certificates, let's say, even online certificates, that could boost your credibility. And now there's less risk for that organization bringing you in to do that free work. Do the work, 12 months. That's what a lot of these job announcements are asking for. 12 months of specialized experience at the next lowest grade. So you can get the experience and you can come in at a lower GS grade into one of these agencies. Now, like I said earlier, Department of Defense is probably going to be your best bet. If we're not able to hire enough cybersecurity professionals within the federal government, we are at risk. We get cyber attacks every day. There's at least 2,000 attacks that we're receiving from Iran, China, Russia. We need professionals in the government that have the skill set to keep our system safe, to keep our people safe. Now, politically speaking, this isn't the best time to come into the federal government. This isn't the best time, really, to characterize the federal government as an inefficient, lazy workforce. Every time those words fall out of a politician's mouth or is mentioned on mainstream media, the federal government, the federal workforce looks less and less desirable. It looks less attractive, even though there is a need. Now, in addition to this, we have some other late breaking events taking place, to include an assassination. A state senator was assassinated recently in the state of Minnesota. And because of that, it has a lot of people in Congress scrambling to staff up a specific agency, USCP, the United States Capitol Police, in order to prevent attacks like this happening into the future. If you want to know more about that, check this video out next. Stay updated by signing up to the free newsletter down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.